Your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man, Louie Tee, aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2018 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out. And I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so, we'll get a score for each and every single player selected in said team's draft. We'll apply bonuses when necessary, divide by the number of picks, which will yield us our overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer, are in total control. This is the You Pick format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos in this series stating two things. The phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Some examples would be Saints, next, NO, next, New Orleans, next. You get where I'm going with this. You get my drift. Speaking of which, the next team up in the series is none other than the New Orleans Saints. That's right, Nolans is up next. And last year was sort of a breakthrough season for the Saints. I thought that the Saints had the best draft of any team last year, and I told you that. I said it was really close between the Colts and the Saints in terms of who had the best draft last season. And I said the Saints, I think, is going to have the most impactful draft, and they had not just one, but both rookies of the year on each respective sides of the football, offensively in Alvin Kamara, and on the defensive side, Marshawn Lattimore. So that draft was exceptional for the Saints, and I told Mickey Loomis, go ahead, stand up, bruh. I'm going to give you this standing OV and take a bow. You deserve it. This year, not so much. Now, I will say this. This draft felt like, especially in the first round, felt like a draft that was a win now type of draft. But when you actually look at this draft, it kind of feels like a win now, but I'm planning for the future draft. I'm not really sure how to feel about this draft because the Saints were a Minneapolis Miracle away from the NFC Championship game, and you'd think that a team that close would pretty much want to just add a few pieces to put them over the top. But that's not necessarily what they did here. This is a team that I felt like was kind of trying to do both and got caught in the middle of trying to do both. Let's plan for the future. Let's acquire depth, but let's also get another pass rusher, which was really the only impactful piece potentially in this draft. We could see a number of guys from this draft have some major impacts in their rookie season, but I don't really know about that. Hell, your first round pick may not even have a huge impact in his rookie season. We'll see, but I'll say this. Damn, homie. Just last draft, you was the man, homie. The up happened to you. We'll see. Maybe Mickey didn't get this wrong because he traded up in the draft last year to select Alvin Kamara, and that was well worth the second round pick that he gave up to move up into the third round to get Kamara. Maybe this pick that he gave up next year's first, that's a steep price to get a guy that's still extremely raw, but maybe that's the right move, and maybe this guy turns out to be an absolute beast. If it's the case, I think we need to come up with a new name for Mickey Loomis when he's trading in the draft. When he slides somebody a pick, he's slipping them a Mickey. In any event, let's get this draft started with Mickey Loomis slipping somebody a Mickey, that somebody being the Green Bay Packers, in order to come up to the 14th overall selection to get an edge rusher out of UTSA in Marcus Davenport. So Marcus Davenport is a guy that I've already broken down in the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you're looking for a thorough breakdown of Marcus Davenport or any other prospects that I was able to get to pre-draft, go to the Louie Tee Network on YouTube. Check out the playlist section. There you will find the Draft Prospects 101 series from 2018. and there you'll find the breakdown for Marcus Davenport. I feel like this guy has immense potential to be a havoc wreaker at the next level, but he's extremely, extremely raw. 6'6", 265, running a sub 4.6 doesn't grow on trees. It just doesn't happen. Now, this guy's an athletic freak, but his skill set needs refining. So we'll see if, and look, one thing I can say about Sean Payton, he does not lie. Sean Payton pretty much told us before this draft got underway, hey, we're getting us a pass rusher really early in this draft. We didn't know how early, and look, it wasn't a matter of what the Saints were going to take in the first round. Remember, I mocked them a edge rusher. I just thought they would stay at home and pick one, whatever one fell to them. It wasn't a matter of what. It was more a matter of how, who, and when. Well, they went up and they got Marcus Davenport, and they had to give up King's ransom to do so. We'll see the impact that this guy has, and if that first round pick surrendered was well worth it in the long run. But nonetheless, if this guy can add a compliment to what you're getting out of Jordan on one side, because Cam Jordan has been holding it down as a pass rusher seemingly for the last 3 years by his lonesome. If he can get some help on the opposite side, or hell, even on the same side, who gives a shit how you do it? This could be a big-time move for the New Orleans Saints. They need another guy to get pressure off the edge, and they're thinking that Marcus Davenport can be that guy for them. We'll see if, in fact, he is the missing piece on a defense that's really starting to grow and blossom right before our very eyes. In the first round, 14th overall selection, edge rusher out of UTSA, Marcus Davenport, for me, is...
Hits it high! Hits it deep! It is out of here!
As we move on to the third round, remember, no second round pick because of the trade last year to go up to acquire Alvin Kamara. So we go to the third round, 91st overall selection, wide receiver out of Central Florida, Tre'Quan Smith is the selection. So Tre'Quan Smith is 6'2", 203 pounds, out of Central Florida, the undefeated Central Florida Knights. And he was a big part of the reason why they were undefeated in 2017. Now, he was not on my radar. I had no idea when the Saints made this selection of who the hell Tre'Quan Smith was. So this was really an eye-opening experience for me because I had no idea what I was walking into. I had no idea what this guy brought to the table. And I watched a ton of Central Florida games because of having to watch other players. And I didn't really notice Tre'Quan Smith. And not saying that was a good or a bad thing. I wasn't looking for him. And normally if a guy is dynamic and explosive like Tre'Quan Smith was, you'll notice him indirectly. I just didn't. So all of this was brand new to me. So 6'2", 203 pounds. 4'4", 940, so the guy can run. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. 12 reps of 2 1/4, 37.5-inch vert, 10.8 broad. So explosiveness is what you're getting here with Tre'Quan Smith. And to me, he's a guy that down the road will replace a Ted Ginn Jr. for you, because to me, his game is similar to a Ted Ginn Jr., a guy that can stretch the field vertically. Not a lot of wiggle here with Tre'Quan Smith, similar to Ted Ginn Jr., but a guy that, when given an opportunity to open up, can get vertical in a hurry and take the top off of a defense. 168 career catches for 2,748 yards and 22 scores. His 2017 numbers really are a big part of that career stats. 59 catches, 1,171 yards for 13 scores in 2017, which was his best season of his career, which is what you're looking for when you draft a player to be ascending and tre'quan Smith definitely doing that as we speak. Measurables, 6'2", 203. That's really good NFL wide receiver size, especially for a guy that can run the way that tre'quan Smith can. That is outstanding size. Hands, put this in my notes. There are some bobbles, some double catches, and some drops, but he can catch the football. He's not one of these guys that you see the ball beating him up like a Will Fuller that has tremendous speed, but you're not sure if he's comfortable catching the football with his hands. He's much more comfortable catching it with his body. Similar kind of to what I said about LSU wide receiver DJ Chark. I don't always know if DJ Chark's hands are natural or not. He always finds a way to catch the football, but I think Chark is a lot more comfortable catching it with his body. It's not the case with tre'quan Smith. He'll go up, he'll get the football, he can catch it with his hands. There's just some concentration lapses sometimes where he doesn't catch it cleanly or he doesn't catch it at all, and if a defender's close enough while he's fumbling around with the football to secure it, they'll be able to jar it loose. So you go watch the Memphis game, the second one, the AAC championship game between those two teams, Memphis and Central Florida, and you'll see a couple of drops in that game, but then you'll also see some spectacular grabs where he goes up and climbs the ladder in traffic and gets the football. So he can catch the football. Speed. He's got game-changing speed is what I put in my notes. I watched him because I had no prior knowledge of this guy. I literally watched him in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different games. So of those 6 games, I probably seen him run by defenders on a go ball probably in about 4 of those 6 games, and multiple times in probably 2 or 3 of those games. So his ability to take the top off the defense, his speed is game-changing. It is electric, and he can be a difference maker in the passing game. Quickness and suddenness, I don't think that's really a big part of his game. Like I said, with Ted Ginn Jr., he's not a shifty guy. Ted Ginn Jr. is not going to win a lot of routes by using subtleness and quickness in and out of breaks. Ted Ginn Jr. scares the crap out of guys with his speed, which gives him enough space to run routes and get wide open. Same thing I think will be said for tre'quan Smith when it's all said and done. Acceleration, he comes at you fast. He's one of those guys that it doesn't take him 5, 6 steps to get to top speed. All he needs is about 3 steps and he's hauling ass. So again, the DBs have to be on their toes. They've got to open up quickly to be able to keep up with this guy, which is going to allow him to win underneath routes and get open. Route running ability, like I said, not a very technical route runner at this point. Wasn't really asked to do so, so I'm not going to beat him up for that. At Central Florida, they didn't ask him to be a technical route runner. They got a lot of easy completions to him, bubbles, hitches, comebacks, drags, go balls. They moved this guy around in the backfield, moved him in motion. They did a number of things to create some situations for this guy to win and get open. So route running isn't his strong suit, which will have to change because in Sean Payton's offense, route running and preciseness and precision is a necessity to be able to stay on the field and be productive in that offense with Drew Brees. If they tell you to run 14 back to 12, you best run 14 back to 12. If they tell you to run a dig route at 12, you better run that dig route on a straight line and don't drift up the field, allowing the defensive back to undercut a route. You better run that thing on a straight line across the field. And those are things that tre'quan Smith will have to get better at in his craft at the next level. Run after catch. He won't make you miss. He's not one of these guys. Much like I said, to me, he's a Ted Ginn Jr. clone. A guy that when Ted Ginn Jr.'s contract is up, this is the guy that's going to step in and fill those shoes. Can he be a number 2 receiver? I don't know if he has that in him. It's good to know that he won't have to do that right away because you have Cameron Meredith, a guy that you signed in free agency, on your roster. If he's healthy, Cameron Meredith will be more than capable of being that number 2 opposite of Michael Thomas. And I think that would allow a guy like tre'quan Smith to be your 4th, possibly 5th option because Ted Ginn Jr. is still on the roster. And if he's healthy, I think Ted would be that 3rd option as a veteran. And then tre'quan Smith will be a guy that can supplement those other guys. So I think it's a good situation for him to come in, be able to learn, and not have to have a lot expected of him early on in his career. But like I said, he's more of a Ted Ginn Jr. guy. You don't have someone around him when he catches the football, he becomes very dangerous because he can turn on the afterburners then and start to run after the catch. But if someone's there, he's not making anybody miss per se. That's just not his strength. Leaping ability, high point the football, this is where he differs from Ted Ginn Jr. This is where he's better than Ted Ginn Jr. Ted Ginn Jr. isn't going and mossing on nobody. He's not putting his nutsack on somebody's helmet and going and getting the football. Tre'Quan Smith will do that. He will go up and get the football, and I got to see him do that quite a bit, especially in that Memphis game, that second Memphis game. He went up, climbed the ladder in some tough catch situations, 50-50 balls with defenders draped all over him, and he was able to make plays on the football. Good catch radius, ball tracking. He will find the football and go and get it. Saw him do that against Cincinnati. Had a huge game. Destroyed Cincinnati. Single-handedly destroyed Cincinnati in that game. Watched him do it against Memphis, as I mentioned before. Made some good plays versus UConn and Auburn in that bowl game. So his ability to go track the football is unquestioned. Blocking, he's a hot and cold blocker. Like most wide receivers coming into the NFL, he's a hot and cold blocker. What I mean by that is sometimes he'll block, sometimes he won't. You don't really know what you're going to get. Generally, if the play is coming his way and he's in a good enough position, then he'll do his best to try to block a guy. If he feels like his block isn't necessary or he's not paying attention to where the ball is coming, then generally he won't do much of anything. So he's a hot and cold blocker. Versatility, they moved him around just about everywhere at Central Florida. Running back, he was in the backfield. They put him in the slot. Jet sweeps, he had a touchdown rushing with a jet sweep against Cincinnati that I got to watch. They put him out wide as a boundary receiver. So this guy was everywhere on the football field. They would move him in motion and create mismatches, and he was like a chess piece. And we'll see if the Saints decide to use him in a similar fashion. We know Sean Payton is a mastermind when it comes to guys with creative skill sets. They usually get the most out of those players. So if Tre'Quan Smith is a guy that they see as someone that they can move around like he did in college, they're going to do that with him in the pros and have success with him like that as well. So it's a really solid pickup. I think right now this pick isn't a triple. I think in the future it could grow into a triple. I think there are some things he's got to work on as a receiver to get better at his craft. But right now he's a solid double. In the future, though, I could easily see this thing matriculating into a triple because I think his talents will catch up to the speed of the game in the NFL and what will be asked of him in this Saints offense. But in the third round, 91st pick overall, Central Florida wide receiver Tre'Quan Smith for me is. For those of you scoring at home, Tre'Quan Smith was a double. Fourth round, 127th overall selection, offensive lineman out of Florida State, Rick Leonard, is the selection. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. Why don't you trust a man with two first names? Because you never know what you're going to get. Just ask Forrest Gump. 6'7", 311 stands Rick Leonard. This is an intriguing pick and probably the most controversial pick of this entire Saints draft. A lot of people were scratching their heads when Rick Leonard was selected in the fourth round. A little too sweet for a lot of people's liking and a lot earlier than a lot of people expected. Hell, some people had Rick Leonard as an undrafted free agent and not a guy that was a draftable prospect. Saints saw otherwise, and they pulled the trigger in the fourth round. I can tell you this. You don't pick a guy like Rick Leonard in the fourth round. Not when you're the New Orleans Saints. Not when you didn't have a second round pick. If you're a team that's looking to build for the future, maybe you could spend a pick on Rick Leonard. But when you're looking to win now, when you've got a small window with Drew Brees as your quarterback, and who's to say Drew could still play another 4 years? We don't know. But right now, Drew Brees is on a 2-year contract and really a year-to-year situation in New Orleans. When you've got a window that's that small, you can't pick Rick Leonard in the 4th round. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. In any event, this guy, I've got some things to say, and I'm going to break him down, but really I'm not going to go through all of his measurables and all of the things. I'm going to just kind of talk to you about what I saw on tape with him and what I see moving forward and what this pick represents for me. 32-inch arms, 22 reps of 2 1/4. Came to campus at Florida State as a defensive lineman. Spent 2 years on the defensive side of the football before the coaches finally convinced him to move to the offensive side of the football. And so that 255-pound frame had to continue to grow into a 311-pound offensive tackle frame. After he was able to make that transition in his 3rd season, he moved to right tackle, started the first 3 games and the last 3 games of his junior season, and then all 13 games of his senior season, all of them at right tackle. So 16 consecutive starts to finish up his career. And because he was so light coming to school, he had to build up his body, and the reps of 2 1/4 are kind of indicative of where he is in his journey right now. He had 19 reps of 2 1/4 at the combine, was then upped to 22 at his pro day, and you could see early on, and I listened to Sean Payton talk about this pick because, like I said, this was a very controversial pick. So I wanted to see what the thought process was in pulling the trigger here in the 4th round. For one, the Saints thought that if they didn't get him, someone else was going to get him. I beg to differ. Now, again, you can never tell what other teams are thinking, but I don't think anyone else was going to take Rick Leonard in the 4th round. I don't think anyone else was going to take Rick Leonard in the 5th round. Maybe you start thinking about a guy like Rick Leonard who's a project in the 6th, 7th round area, and that's generally where you take a guy like this. You generally don't take a guy that you have no intentions of playing in his rookie season in the 4th round. Look, the first 4 rounds are guys that you expect to contribute right away. I need you to come in and ball right now. In some form, some shape, some capacity, I need you to help my football team. Not now, like right now. And maybe they'll get their hands on him and they'll sculpt him into a serviceable enough player to where he can be a swing tackle for them potentially. But I'm here to tell you that I just don't see it right now. Maybe 2 years down the road, this guy can help. But right now, he isn't ready. So to spend a 4th round pick on him, very questionable at best. But listening to Sean Payton talk, they said that they really liked this guy's movement skills. And you can see that he is a guy that can move on tape. He's got a lot to learn. He has to get functionally stronger. You did see him pushed around, but Sean Payton made mention of this, and I actually concur with this statement. He said, early on, you could see a guy that was still feeling his way out, still kind of figuring out the nuances of the offensive line and the tackle position in particular, kind of confused by certain things, and was kind of getting his feet wet. As the season progressed, you saw a guy that became much more comfortable in what was being asked of him, and a guy that really started to figure things out. And so I went and I watched a number of games at the beginning of the season, and then I plucked one at the end to see if what Sean Payton was saying was actually coming to fruition on the field, and I was pleasantly surprised. The guy that I saw in that final game actually looked like a guy that you could spend a 4th round pick on. I still wouldn't have done it, but I see what they saw and what made them want to work with this guy and potentially see if he can help them down the road. Watched him versus Alabama. He struggled, as you would expect, very first game of the season. Watched him against NC State the very next week. Bradley Chubb and company. He struggled, as you would expect. Watched him the following week after that versus Wake Forest and Duke Ejiofor in that group, and thought he was okay, but he had his moments where he struggled there as well. In the first 2 weeks against NC State and Alabama, he was on skates several times where guys just simply just whooped his ass with bull rushes. Long arm of the law was just having this guy all over the place, and he was struggling. And I watched Duke Ejiofor put a spin move on him that put this guy in a spin cycle, had his ass spinning so much, his head, he was in next week. He had no idea what the hell happened, and if not for the guard coming over to help, he would have gotten beat like a drum on that particular play because that spin sent his ass into next week. So he had a lot to learn, and he was learning on the job. Then I turned on the Clemson tape later on in the season, one of the final games of the regular season. I thought he was lights out. He had a block against one of the big-time defensive linemen for Clemson. Can't think of his name right now, number 42, but he's a big guy. And he had a reach block on him that was awesome. I mean, he not only got to the defensive lineman, but he turned his ass, threw the guy on the ground. I'm like, you're not supposed to be able to do that to him. So that was really impressive. So he picked up some TE games that he had struggled with earlier in the season seamlessly. He moved his feet well. He recovered on a couple of plays where he was beat around the edge. I was really impressed. Christian Wilkins is his name. And he reached him and he tossed him on the ground. And I'm like, what? Go ahead with your bad self, man. So Rick Leonard got better as the season progressed. Again, I would not have spent a 4th round pick on him, but I can see why watching that Clemson game. And he's a guy that I look at and I say his arms are too short to box. So I think he's going to struggle at left tackle or right tackle, which I think the Saints think he can play both tackle positions. He may actually have to kick inside the guard, and he's a really big guy to go inside the guard. But I think when it's all said and done, he might have to kick inside because if he gets beat, his recovery isn't the greatest because he has very short arms, 32-inch arms for a guy with a 6'7" frame. That's not what you're looking for. And I saw him lose around the edge a couple of times and just not be able to recover because he just didn't have long enough arms. So we'll see what happens with Rick Leonard and what becomes of him and what the Saints ultimately decide to do with him. Right now, he's going to be a tackle. They're going to have to work with this guy, and we'll see if they're able to get anything out of him because if the trend continues in New Orleans, he's going to have to play sooner rather than later because they stay banged up on the offensive line, especially at the left tackle position. Specifically, I'm talking about Teron Armstead. He's always injured, so you got a really good first-round pickup last year in the tackle out of Wisconsin. He just came in and was outstanding for you. But Rick Leonard may have to play sooner rather than later. Let's hope that's not the case, but we'll see what happens in the 4th round, 127th pick overall. Florida State offensive lineman Rick Leonard, for me, is as we move to the 5th round, 164th overall selection, defensive back out of Wisconsin, Natrell Jamerson is the selection. So I don't know what I was expecting when I turned on the tape to see Natrell Jamerson. I don't know what I was expecting. I've soured on Wisconsin defensive backs. Like, I'm not a huge Nick Nelson fan, who was drafted by the Oakland Raiders. I just generally don't see Wisconsin defensive backs transitioning to the league and making a huge impact. And I could be wrong. And there probably was a guy 2-3 years ago that was a stud coming out of Wisconsin. But generally speaking, I'm not a Wisconsin guy when it comes to defensive backs. You can go get you a quality linebacker from Wisconsin. You can go get you a J.J. Watt from Wisconsin. But secondary, I'm good on that, man. I'll pass. Thanks, though. You know, I'd much rather get me an offensive lineman from Wisconsin like you did last year than a defensive back. But that being said, I actually like Natrell Jamerson a lot. 5'11", 201. And this guy's had a very unique college experience in terms of his positions and what he was asked to do. And I think that actually helps him at the next level. It really benefits him because he's so multifaceted. 4'4" flat. So the dude can absolutely fly. And I think the best way to see him run and see this guy open up and actually show you the acceleration and the speed and the burst that he has, and the best example of that is him returning a kickoff for a touchdown versus Maryland in like 2015. He was explosive on that play, and that's the 4-4 right there. You get to see it in all of its splendor. 25 reps of 2 1/4. Woo! For a 5'11", 201 safety, that's nice. Hell, he's repping 2 1/4 more than your tackle in Rick Leonard that you just took in the 4th round. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure Natrell Jamerson's arms are much smaller, but I don't give a damn. 35.5-inch vert, 10-foot broad, so the guy is very explosive. So here's his journey through college. Started out his career as a wide receiver as a freshman. Didn't go so well. So in his sophomore year, he makes the switch to the defensive side of the football as a corner, primarily a nickel, and he started returning kickoffs. Returned that kickoff for a touchdown versus Maryland, as I mentioned. That went okay, and they decided to move him over to safety for his final 2 years of his career. 2 INTs, 1 going for a score against Northwestern. 14 PBUs. Matter of fact, both of his career interceptions came against Northwestern in that same game. 14 PBUs, a sack and a half, and 4.5 tackles for loss in his career. I really like what this guy brings to the table. I look at him as the new Kenny Vaccaro, a new and improved version of Kenny Vaccaro, a guy that can move around the football field, do a number of things, blitz, cover the slot, drop back as a single high safety, has the speed to get from sideline to sideline, kind of do everything, and be one hell of a gunner on special teams as well. So I see Natrell Jamerson as a guy that can do so many different things. Let's jump into his breakdown quickly. Speed, ridiculous. Told you he's a 4'4" flat guy. Athleticism, acceleration, change of direction, agility, all of those things are outstanding with this guy. Anticipation and awareness is solid. I think he could have more anticipation as a single high free safety. Sometimes he arrives to the party a little late. I'd like to see him be able to put that 4.40 to use as a single high safety and get there before the action gets underway. Don't show up late. Be great. Get there early. Don't meet me there. Beat me there. I want to see him be a little bit better as a single high free safety. But that being said, he has good awareness, especially when he's over the slot in man situations or out in zone coverage underneath. I think he does a really good job of breaking on the football. Watched him break on a slant in a game versus Iowa and break that up. Really like what he brings to the table as a guy, because remember, he's got that ex-cornerback, ex-nickel background, so he has no problem dropping over the slot and getting busy if he needs to in that capacity. Look, locate, and contest. Watched him do it against Michigan down the field. He was beaten on this play, actually. The quarterback scrambles out of the pocket, has the tight end running down the field. If he puts the football out in front towards the pylon down the field, I don't know if Natrell Jamerson can get back into the play, but with that 4.4 speed, I don't count him out. But he was beaten on that play, but football hung up there. It wasn't thrown in the proper area. He was able to locate the football, go up, and knock it away from a receiver that was much bigger than he was. Also against FIU in the corner of the end zone, quarterback looking to throw the fade ball. He was able to locate the football. Should have picked it off, to be honest with you. Went right through his hands. Should have had a pick there, but nonetheless, located and contested and was able to knock that away. Ball skills. I question whether his hands are the cleanest, but then you're talking about an ex-receiver, and then the play that won me over in terms of ball skills was against Northwestern. His pick six in that game was a thing of absolute beauty. He is a lurker on the play. He's a lurk defender, okay? So all that means is he's a free defender underneath, reading the eyes of the quarterback. He has no particular position on this particular play. All he's looking to do is key quarterback eyes and see if the quarterback will take him to the football. That's exactly what the Northwestern quarterback Thornton did on that particular play. Eyes took him right to the middle of the field. And as he saw where the quarterback was looking, he drifted slowly. And when that football was released, he picked it out, and it was a bullet. He snatched it out of the air, took off down the sidelines, and was able to pick six that one, make a house call. So he's got ball skills. He can make plays on the football. Tackling, his willingness to tackle, I love his tackling ability. He does not tackle like a 5'11", 200-pound defensive back. He tackles like a linebacker. He wraps up. He drives you to the ground. He's physical. But when he needs to come up and make a sure form tackle, he does that. I didn't see him miss any tackles on tape. Everything was clean. He broke down, wrapped guys up. When he got kill shots, he blew guys up, lit them up. Again, I watched him on special teams as a gunner against Northwestern go down and plant the return man. Also saw him down 2 punts in that set. He was outstanding versus Northwestern. 2 interceptions, some kill shots in the flats, blow up of a return man on a punt, and then 2 down punts inside the 5-yard line. 1 at the 2, 1 at the 1. He was stupid in that game. So, like I said, the versatility that you get with Natrell Jamerson is just off the charts. Man coverage. I talked about the slant breakup he had versus Iowa. Also had a nasty hit in the flats. That was more zone coverage than it was man, but his ability to be able to play man or zone, I think, is outstanding. Had the 2 picks in zone coverage versus Northwestern. So I like him in man and zone. Blitzing capabilities. I watched this guy blitz against Nebraska as a free hitter on the blind side, lit the quarterback up. I'd have loved to have seen him go after the football. He didn't, but also had a free chance against Michigan. Just missed the quarterback. Came in a little reckless there, but nonetheless, he's a guy with that kind of speed. When timed up correctly, he's going to be a problem as a blitzer as well. Field coverage, when you're running a 4-4, there's not a blade of grass you can't get to. It's just all about him diagnosing the play early enough to be able to get there, to be able to have an impact on the play. Talked about the versatility. I'll reiterate it because I think that's probably my favorite thing with Natrell Jamerson right now is the fact that this guy offers you so many different things. I think he's an exceptional gunner right now on special teams. Day number 1, he walks in and he's probably the best gunner you got. He can return kickoffs if you need him to do that. I know you don't want to put Alvin Kamara back there very often. When you need a spark, maybe throw Kamara back there. But here's a guy, Natrell Jamerson, that could do that for you. You can play over the slot. You can play safety. You can play him underneath as a blitzing defender. You can play him underneath as a zone defender, as a lurker, as a buzz defender. You can play him as a single high free safety. And then he can also play corner for you if need be in a pinch. So there's so much versatility here. I think that's probably what really won me over. That and the fact that this guy tackles his ass off. Really love what he brings to the table. And like I said, he's going to be the new Kenny Vaccaro for this defense when it's all said and done. And I think that right now he's going to get on this roster by special teams, but it's not going to be long before this guy's on the field. And you like him young. We've seen what you've done to this defense over the last couple of years. You like him young, dumb, and hungry. And that's what Natrell Jamerson is. He's young, dumb, and hungry. And he's going to get on the football field one way or another. And he's going to have an impact for this team. In the 5th round, 164th pick overall. Defensive back out of Wisconsin. Natrell Jamerson, for me, is and for those of you scoring at home, Rick Leonard was a double and Natrell Jamerson was a triple. As we move on to the next pick in this Saints draft, 6th round, 189th overall selection, cornerback out of Boston College. Cameron Moore is the selection. .5'11", 203 stands Cameron Moore. Guy was a team captain. Do not discount that at Boston College. He was a team captain. Late season shoulder injury prevented him from performing at the combine. He did, however, work out at the Boston College Pro Day where he ran a 4.55, and that's pretty much what you do see on tape. Had a leg injury in 2015 that cost him the final 4 games of that season. Had a shoulder injury that cost him the final 3 games of 2017. So that's a little bit of a concern there where you've got a guy that continuously gets injured. Career stats, 2 INTs, 22 PBUs, and 6 tackles for losses. Here's a guy that I look at, and I listen to Sean Payton talk about this pick, and I wanted to see what they saw in Cameron Moore. And I think they like his ability to just be smart. High football IQ, be where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. And he's not going to wow you with his measurables, 5'11", 203. He's not going to wow you with his speed and athleticism, 4.55 guy. What he is, though, is a guy that plays his position and plays it well. What I mean by that is the Redskins traded away a guy that I was very fond of in Kendall Fuller. And the thing that I loved about Kendall Fuller the most wasn't his measurables, wasn't his athleticism, even though he was a really good athlete. It was his football IQ. It was his acumen. He could see things happening before they happened. And before the play could even unfold and develop, he'd already be in the backfield messing up something, blowing up a wide receiver screen or messing up a swing screen. I can't tell you how many times and how close Kendall Fuller was to picking off a wide receiver screen or tackle for loss on a bubble screen or a swing screen or something quick hitting. They're trying to run a pick play and he's blowing it up. That's what Cameron Moore is, a guy that sees things before they happen. I loved his physical play against some bigger receivers. I watched him against Notre Dame in 2017. I saw him body up Equanimous St. Brown. I watched him against Clemson. I watched him body up Deion Kane in that football game. Watched him against Florida State. I watched him body up a bigger receiver in Auden Tate. So I watched him against some bigger receivers, some much more physical guys, and he held his own. Now, Deion Kane ran by him a couple of times, and that's what's going to happen. Same thing with Equanimous St. Brown. Guys that are faster than him, they're going to run by him. It's just going to happen. But he's physical. He doesn't give in. He plays really good zone coverage. Does a really good job of sagging off into different routes and really taking things away from the quarterback that he wants to get to. It does a really good job of just playing the game of football from a mental standpoint. And you know what I like? Who I liken him to? A guy with the same namesake as him. A guy that was a Saint for a very long time. Sterling Moore. I see a lot of Sterling Moore in Cameron Moore. And Sterling Moore has lasted a lot longer in this league than he was supposed to because he's a smart, heady football player. You play for the New England Patriots, you better be a smart football player. He made plays. Remember, he had the big knockaway from Lee Evans in that playoff game versus the Ravens. That's heady football. See football, knock it away. He made plays for this Saints football team, did Sterling Moore. Played for the Cowboys, made plays for them. Cameron Moore is one of those guys. Same size. Sterling Moore was 5'11", 202. Cameron Moore, 5'11", 203. Sterling Moore ran a 4.54 coming into the league. Cameron Moore runs a 4.55. I see so many similarities between those two players. I see Cameron Moore, if he's going to make this team, it's going to be in that kind of capacity where he's going to have to be smart, a guy that can play some zone and mix it up a little bit. You don't want this guy consistently in man-to-man coverage because he's going to get beat. But you let this guy play zone, I think that's where he excels. I don't love this guy as a tackler. And the thing about Cameron Moore is I don't love any of his individual skill sets, any individual characteristics and attributes about his game. I don't love any of them. I don't love his size. I don't love his speed. I don't love his tackling ability. I don't love his ball skills, okay? I saw some instances where I thought he should have picked some passes off and they hit the ground. Only had 2 career INTs in his career, both coming in 2016. There's not one thing I love about this guy other than his mind. So from a physical standpoint, I don't love Cameron Moore. But from a mental standpoint, thinking the game, seeing things before they happen, I do love that about him. And I think if he's going to make this Saints roster, there's no guarantee that he does. But if he's going to make this roster, it's going to have to be in that capacity. And he's going to have to make some plays on the football. And he's going to have to tackle a lot better than I saw him on tape. Because there were times like I thought his best game was Notre Dame. The Notre Dame game was his best game. Thought he should have had a pick or two in that game. But he was blowing guys up. He was physical in the run game, in run support. He did everything he needed to do from a tackling standpoint. And then late in the ball game has a I don't give a shit moment where he just allows the quarterback to finish off a good 55-yard touchdown run. And I'm like, bruh, come on. Don't let the receiver block you and you just give a half-hearted attempt as the quarterback strolls right past you into the end zone. But that's what you get from Cameron Moore at times. So in any event, 6th round, 189th overall selection. Defensive back out of Boston College, Cameron Moore for me is sixth round, 201st overall pick, running back out of Louisiana Tech, Boston Scott is the selection. It's guys like him that you're not supposed to let Sean Payton get his hands on. I liken it to last year when I told everyone in the league, don't let Alvin Kamara end up in New Orleans or New England. He ended up in New Orleans. Big mistake. Same thing can be said about this player here in Boston Scott. Another one of these smallish jitterbug tre'quan types that if he ends up in the wrong hands could be really diabolical. And this is obviously he's in New Orleans, so you know what the comp is going to be. Everyone's going to want to compare him to Darren Sproles, and for good reason. He has a similar frame, similar skill set. A lot of what you see out of him is Darren Sproles. It really is. Physical, like Darren Sproles. Low, compact center of gravity, like Darren Sproles. The ability to catch it, like Darren Sproles. I think he has bigger strides than Sproles. You know, Sproles has the little small choppy steps he takes. Boston Scott's got bigger strides, but he's 5'7", so they're not that much bigger. But I liken it to back in the day, and I'm showing my age here, but back in the day on Madden, right around 2001, 2002, you couldn't pick the Rams. That was considered cheating. Okay, the greatest show on turf, that was considered cheating. I'm pretty sure it's similar now. I don't play games like I used to, but I'm pretty sure it's similar to if you're playing 2K, can't pick the Warriors, right? That's cheating, right? Can't pick them. I'm not playing you for money if you're playing with the Warriors. I'm just not. you can't allow Boston Scott on this team when they already have Alvin Kamara and they already have the likes of the backfield that we saw last year tearing the league apart. This isn't fair to add him to the mix, to Ingram, to Kamara, and now having Scott in the mix. 5'7", $195, 4.4 flat. Another guy that can flat out fly. 38.5-inch vert. 20 reps of 2.25. So again, this guy's like a walking muscle, essentially is what he is. Like I said, similar to Darren Sproles, which is why you're going to get the comparisons to Mighty Mike. Career stats, 287 rushes for 1,833 yards and 14 touchdowns, 12 catches for 307 yards and a score. 2017, he had 182 rushes, so more than half of his rushes came in 2017 for 1,040 yards and 8 scores, and 20 catches for 181 yards and 1 touchdown in 2017. And that number was actually 22 career grabs that he had in his career. So, nonetheless, this is a guy here that also has 3 years of kickoff return experience. Never took one to the house, but also can offer you that if you need him to as well. So, obviously, speed, quickness, acceleration, agility, stupid, dumb, off the charts. I don't need to explain that to you. Vision is solid. He can make you miss. He's not Tariq Cohen in that regard, okay? Tariq Cohen might be the nastiest little guy we got in the league now in terms of making somebody miss and look stupid out in space. That was his specialty in college at North Carolina A&T, okay? Boston Scott isn't doing that. Can he make you miss? Sure he can. But he's just looking to just outrun you. That's his thing. I'm just going to run faster than you can, and I'm going to try to beat your angle. And the problem with guys like this is that they're so tiny, you don't see them amongst the trees, amongst those behemoths down in the trenches. He can hide, and there was a game versus SMU that I'm watching him in where he just gets lost. Guys don't know where he is. He runs into the back of his offensive lineman, spins out of the pack, and takes off running for about a gain of 26, gain of 30. And it can happen so easily. You just lose this guy. I watched him dominate against UTSA, against your boy, your first-round pick, in Marcus Davenport and company. Tore them a new asshole, including a score that put that game away late. Really good contact balance. For a guy his size, he'll run through arm tackles. He'll bounce off of shoulders. Again, that low center of gravity and him being just a walking muscle, as I mentioned earlier, allows him to power through contact and get yards after contact. Really good toughness and durability. Again, generally these smaller guys, they're very, very crafty, and you generally don't get good shots on them like a la Warwick Dunn. Remember, it was hard to square up Warwick Dunn. I don't remember Warwick Dunn ever taking a full head-on shot because he could always get skinny or he could always get lower than you. So Boston Scott, another one of those guys that hard to just smash him one good time because he's so low to the ground. Receiving ability, man, I watched him break a dude off in the South Carolina game on a simple option route. When you're running an option route, you've got a 3-way go of it. You can take it up the field. You can run out or in, or you can run out. He chose the out, and that defender, that linebacker, poor guy. It just, no. So he offers you the ability to run routes out of the backfield and be a problem there. So add him to the list of short guys you got, because I think you still have the serial killer on your team, something Lee, something. So he's another one of those guys that can create explosive plays. Add Boston Scott to the mix. Only one career fumble, didn't even lose it in 20 15, I believe. So he takes care of the football. There's so much to like here with Boston Scott. This guy shouldn't have ended up in New Orleans. This is the wrong place for him to land. He's going to be a problem. He's not only is he making the roster, he's going to be a problem in his rookie season. Sean Payton's going to find and create snaps for this guy. Remember last year when Adrian Peterson was on the roster early in the season and there wasn't enough footballs to go around? Sean Payton's going to create opportunities for this guy and Kamara to be on the field at the same time with the serial killer too. It's going to be scary. And with that amount of speed on the field, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I don't know. Good luck. You're going to need it. 6th round, 201st overall selection. Running back out of La Tech. Boston Scott is the rare. For those of you scoring at home, Boston Scott was the rare 6th round triple. Really good landing destination for him and his skill set. As we wrap up this Saints draft in the 7th round, 245th overall selection, LSU offensive lineman Will Clapp is the selection. This one, I'm not going to keep you here long on because he is the quintessential late round draft pick of any team, fill in the blank team. This is what you do. You take a guy that is extremely versatile, that can play multiple positions. And in the case of the Saints, you know, the Saints operate as a broke franchise every single year. And you know you're broke when you make mention of money in talking about Will Clapp. Sean Payton said, yeah, he can save us some money. Yeah, you're broke. That's what broke teams do. They talk about money and saving money. And look, everyone's looking to save a roster spot or two. The Saints aren't the only team looking to do that. They're just the only ones that actually make mention of money because when you're broke, as a wise man once told me, when you're broke, you're home. When you got money, you got buku places to go on. Well, Saints, they feel like they can save a little money here with Will Clapp because this guy can play multiple positions. That he did at LSU, 6'5", 311. In the SEC, always a big coup and always a huge plus for an offensive lineman when you can say, hey, look, I went up against the best of the best in college football and I held my own. And Will Clapp can say that. And not only one, not only two, but 3 positions. This guy was an all SEC pick at some point in his career. 31-inch arms, 5'3", 940, 25 reps of 2 1/4, 36 career starts, 12 at left guard, 11 at right guard, and 13 at center. Right now, the Saints view him as a center, but again, doesn't hurt that he can play all 3 interior offensive line positions and play them very, very solidly. I think he's much better at center, so I agree with the Saints in their assessment of this guy as a center, wanting to try him there first and then seeing what happens from there. But he's a guy that I think is going to make this roster because of his versatility, and he's really solid. And he's a guy that in a pinch, if you need someone to come in and give you some quality reps, Will Clapp will do that. He won't hurt you. He's not going to dominate, but he won't hurt you in the run game. He won't hurt you in the pass game. We always know that the Saints have done a tremendous job over the years of really putting some studs in front of Drew Brees on the interior of the offensive line. They've always kept, look, they'll find tackles anywhere. And last year was the first year where they really said, all right, we got to hunker down and find some tackles. And they went out and they spent the 1st round pick on the tackle out of Wisconsin, Ryan Ramczyk. But they generally make sure that the interior positions, center and both guards, are taken care of because Drew Brees is a smaller quarterback, needs to be able to step up in the pocket, and that's where the interior penetration happens. You can have guys running around and the pocket on the outsides not be as clean. Drew will just step up and shred you. So the interior of the offensive line has to be intact. a guy like Will Clapp will make sure that it stays exactly that if someone were to go down. So they like his versatility. Again, another one of these guys, nothing stands out about Will Clapp other than the fact that this guy played in the SEC and did a bang-up job at 3 different positions. But his athleticism isn't that great. His technique is solid, but it's not flawless. He's got holes in his game. His anchor is solid, but I saw this guy off balance a couple of times on the ground, a little bit too much for my liking. But like I said, he gets the job done at the end of the day. He stays in front of guys. He isn't getting bull rushed, and he isn't in the lap of the quarterback. He gets the job done. I don't like the fact that a lot of times he doesn't sustain his block. His guy can end up making the tackle. So in the run game, while he will put a body on a body, he doesn't necessarily sustain that block all the time. But again, he does his job, and he does it well enough that he'll end up on an NFL roster. He'll end up on this Saints roster, and he'll be a guy that will be a game day active player because of all of the positions that he can play. Not only will he save you money, as Sean Payton said, but he'll save you an additional roster spot as well. And for that, you got to love what Will Clapp brings to the table. He was so good at LSU that he decided to come out a year early. Still had a year of eligibility left, but he dominated at 3 different positions. He said, I'm good. Time for me to take my talents to the next league. That he did. And in the 7th round, 245th overall selection, offensive lineman out of LSU, Will Clapp, wraps up this Saints draft as for those of you scoring at home, Will Clapp was a double. So not last year's dominant, extravagant draft that the Saints turned in last year, hitting 2 home runs in the first round with Ramczyk and Lattimore, and then turning around and smashing it out of the park with Kamara. Not quite the same draft, but I'll tell you this much. You got Davenport. I don't know what you're going to get out of him in his rookie season. I do know that I love Natrell Jamerson and Boston Scott for this team and what they're looking to do. We're going to see what Tre'Quan Smith evolves into. Again, I think that's a pick for down the road. I think the pick of Rick Leonard is a pick for down the road. Hell, even Davenport, who they think can have an impact, may be ultimately his best down the road. So when I look at this draft, I look at a draft full of depth and players that will evolve down the road for a team that should be looking to win now. And that's probably the problem that I had with this draft, is not enough impact guys right now. Out of the 7, I think I may have seen 3, if Tre'Quan Smith is able to help, 4 in his rookie season. But really right now it's Davenport, possibly Boston, and Jamerson as impact guys. We'll see what happens with this draft. Nonetheless, it was solid. If you're looking for scores for each of these picks, go to the website, LouieTeeNetwork.net. Check out the website while you're there. Also, check out the podcast, Louie Tee Network podcast, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Music Play, and on the website, LouieTeeNetwork.net. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and continue to support the movement. There's so many ways you can donate to this channel, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Patreon, whether it's via anything. I got a number of different ways down low in the description. Check it out. But here's how this draft was scored. Right here. So that's going to do it for the Saints draft wrap up here on the Louie Tee Network. I thank you for joining me. I've got plenty more where that came from, so stay tuned. Make sure you like this video, share it, and subscribe to the Louie Tee Network if you haven't already done so. Remember, we're changing the game one video at a time, and that's all of my time. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Louie